Could you survive 24 hours in the deadliest earthquake in Japan's history? Right now, wherever you are sitting, feel the solid floor beneath your feet. Now imagine it is a warm, ordinary lunchtime, and that floor suddenly begins to move. It is the 1st of September, 1923, in the heart of Tokyo. In the next 2 minutes, the ground will try to shake the entire city apart. But here is the strange truth. The earthquake is not the thing that kills this city. The shaking is only the trigger. The real disaster has not even started yet. And the deadliest mistake you can make today is the one that feels the safest. But that comes later. It is 4 minutes before noon, and all across Tokyo, families are cooking lunch. In hundreds of thousands of homes, small charcoal stoves are burning under the midday meal. Then, at 58 minutes past 11, the ground lurches violently. A magnitude 8 earthquake has just torn open the seabed south of the city. This is not a gentle tremor. It is violent enough to throw you straight off your feet. Across Tokyo and nearby Yokohama, wooden houses lean, twist, and collapse into the streets. And this is the key. The city is built almost entirely of wood and paper. For a few endless seconds, the world is nothing but noise, dust, and falling timber. Then, just as it seems to ease, it strikes again, twice. 2 more huge aftershocks hit within 5 minutes, at 1 and 3 minutes past noon. Buildings that survive the first shock come crashing down in the second and the third. And yet, if the shaking were all there was, you would very likely live. Because for all its violence, the collapsing buildings kill only about 1 in 10 of the dead. 9 out of every 10 who die today will not be killed by the earthquake at all. You climb out of the dust, shaken but alive, and you think the worst is behind you. It is not. The worst is only just beginning to catch light. Remember those hundreds of thousands of little cooking fires burning for lunch. In one violent minute, the earthquake has knocked every single one of them over. Spilled coals fall onto straw mats, paper walls, and dry wooden beams. All across the broken city, at almost the very same moment, small fires begin to bloom. Alone, any one of them could be stamped out in a few seconds. But there are more than 100 of them at once, and no one is coming to stop them. Within half an hour of the quake, over 130 separate fires are burning. And now the city's second, hidden disaster reveals itself. When the ground shook, it snapped the water mains buried beneath the streets. So when firefighters turn their hoses onto the flames, almost nothing comes out. The one thing that could have stopped the fire has drained away into the broken earth. You watch a dozen small fires you could have beaten grow into a solid wall of flame. And then the fires begin to find each other. Ruptured gas lines feed them. Whole collapsed houses become fuel piled in the streets. 2 fires meet and merge into one larger fire, burning twice as hungry. That fire meets another and another until entire neighborhoods are alight at once. The heat grows so intense that the fire begins to create its own weather. Superheated air roars upward, and fresh air is sucked in from the sides to feed the flames. This is no longer a fire you can calmly walk away from. It is a firestorm, and it can move faster than a person can sprint. The air itself grows hot enough to sear your lungs before the flames ever reach you. And today, of all days, the wind is against you. Far out at sea, a powerful typhoon is passing along the coast of Japan. Its winds sweep inland and hit the burning city like a giant bellows. The wind seizes the flames and drives them through the streets in great rolling waves. By early afternoon, the sky above Tokyo has turned black in the middle of the day. Ash falls like gray snow, and the sun becomes a dull red coin behind the smoke. And then the wind and the fire together do something that almost no one has ever seen. They begin to spin. Where the firestorm meets the typhoon wind, the flames twist upward into a spinning column. A tornado made entirely of fire. In Japan, they would come to call it a tatsumaki, a dragon twist. These fire whirls tower hundreds of feet up into the black sky. And they are so hot that they burn the oxygen right out of the air around them. Which means they do not only burn you, they can suffocate you from across the street. At least 5 of these giant firestorms tear across the city at once. They cross rivers, they leap fire breaks, they swallow entire districts whole. And everywhere they go, the people of Tokyo are running for their lives. But running to where? The narrow streets have become walls of fire. The wooden bridges are burning. Every familiar landmark is already gone or going. In a wooden city with no water and a firestorm at your back, there is almost nowhere left to run. And so the survivors do the one thing that makes perfect logical sense. They search for open space, away from the buildings, away from the fuel, somewhere wide and empty where the fire will have nothing left to burn. It is the most natural instinct in the world. Flee the flames, reach the open, and simply wait for the fire to pass you by. And tens of thousands of people all across the city have exactly the same idea. In the east of Tokyo, they find what looks like the perfect refuge, a huge, open, empty ground, and they pour into it by the tens of thousands. It is a former army clothing depot, a wide, clear space beside the river. By the middle of the afternoon, nearly 40,000 people are packed onto it. They have dragged in what they could save, carts piled high with bedding and belongings. And that one detail, the belongings, is about to matter terribly. For a while, it truly feels like safety. The open ground has no buildings to burn, but the fire does not need the ground to burn. It has brought its own fuel with it. The firestorms around the depot begin to close in from every side at once. The intense heat sets alight the very carts and belongings the people carried in. And then, at around 4 o'clock, the thing no one could have predicted arrives. A single, enormous fire tornado sweeps directly across the packed open ground. In that one place, in only a few minutes, nearly 40,000 people are gone. The open space they ran to for safety became the single, deadliest spot in the whole disaster. It is the cruelest lesson of the entire day. The instinct that felt like it would save them was the very thing that killed them. Out of the tens of thousands gathered on that ground, only a few hundred survive. This one place alone accounts for almost a third of everyone who dies in the city. And while the land burns, the sea has been preparing a threat of its own. The same quake that shook the ground shoved the ocean into a towering wall of water. A tsunami up to 12 meters high slams into the seaside towns along the coast. It drags boats, houses, and people who had fled to the beaches out into the bay. There is death on the land, in the air, and from the sea, all on the same afternoon. By nightfall, the great firestorms have burned much of the city down to ash. But the fires are still not finished. They keep burning through the whole night and on through the next day. The last of the flames are not put out until the 3rd of September. By the time they die, they have burned for around 40 hours and consumed almost half of Tokyo. So, could you survive 24 hours in the Great Tokyo Earthquake? Let us be honest about what living through this single day would truly demand. First, you would have to survive the shaking itself and the 2 aftershocks right behind it. Then you would have to escape your home before the cooking fire it just spilled took hold. Then cross a wooden city with no water as 100 small fires merged into one. You would have to outrun a firestorm that moves faster than you possibly can, and breathe air that is hot enough to burn you from the inside out. But above all, you would have to fight the one instinct that almost everyone trusted, the instinct to run to the wide, open, empty ground and wait. Because on this day, the open ground was not the refuge, it was the trap. The people who lived were most often the ones who reached water, the rivers, the canals, the bay. Not open earth, but the one thing a firestorm cannot cross. To survive this day, you had to understand the fire better than you trusted your own fear. And on that first terrible afternoon, almost no one possibly could. Most never even realized that the earthquake was never the real enemy. They braced themselves for the ground, and it was the sky that came for them. So here is the truth the Great Tokyo Earthquake leaves behind. More than 100,000 people died on that single day, but only about 1 in 10 of them were killed by the earthquake itself. The rest were taken by what the earthquake started: the fire, the wind, and the panic. The shaking lasted only seconds. The thing that truly destroyed the city lasted 2 days. And Japan never forgot the lesson written in those 40 hours of fire. It rebuilt in stone and steel and wrote some of the strictest building codes on Earth. And to this day, every 1st of September, the whole country practices for the next one. So the next time the ground ever moves beneath your feet, remember Tokyo. Remember that surviving the earthquake is only the very first minute of the danger. The falling walls are the part you fear, but it is what comes after that you have to understand. Because the earthquake is almost never the real disaster. It is only the match, and what you do in the hour after it strikes is what keeps you alive.